What's up, nerds? It's time to talk about Acheron, because there's a lot of concern right now in the Honkai Star Rail community over whether Acheron is a free-to-play friendly character or not, because a lot of players, myself included, feel like she's going to be at the top of the pyramid in terms of the power level of this game, and free-to-play players want some of that sweet-hot action as well. So let's go ahead and talk about this, because I feel like it's a little bit of a more complicated question to answer, because I do feel like there are a lot of already existing tools that are accessible to literally every single player in the entire game that can totally make her function very, very well. But it's a fair point to say there are a lot of other tools that are not so easy to get that will make her even better. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I made a video yesterday going over whether it's worth saving for Acheron or not. Go ahead and check the pinned comment and description below if you're interested in that. In the comment section of that video, people were expressing a multitude of concerns. So we are going to look into some of those concerns now. I do read the comments that y'all make, and they are truly valued. The first concern I want to look into is when players were voicing that you need 2 Nihility characters besides Acheron in order to properly make her kit work. And while that is true, according to what we know so far, that's not really that big of a problem. Now, to be fair, these Nihility characters don't just need to be Nihility characters, they need to be able to reliably apply debuffs. But that's literally what every single Nihility character does. Even DOT characters apply DOT, and DOTs are considered debuffs. And if you're playing the Penacony Patch 2.0 events, we are literally given a free 4-star selector. Genshin could never. And 2 of the characters on that 4-star selector are both Nihility characters that can consistently apply debuffs to enemies, and more than one at a time. And would you look at this awesome coincidence? If you go to the in-game shop, Pela is currently available using our Starlight. Yeah, she's a debuffing character on the path of Nihility, and she's literally one of the best characters in the entire game if you really know what you're doing. And her ult goes up really fast and debuffs literally every enemy at once on the field with that ult. So technically, every single player in the entire world, even a new player you just pulled off of a bus stop, can literally start playing the game today and solve this issue right now. And yes, I am aware that this might not be everybody's favorite character selections in the entire game, but I just wanted to point out that there are options and you're not literally stuck if you pull Acheron. Besides, many players have been playing the game for a decent amount of time and have more than just those characters to choose from to pair with Acheron. Remember Dr. Ratio. This tall glass of water wants 6 active debuffs out there at a time for his kit to properly work. Trust me when I say this, if you can build a Dr. Ratio team, you can build an Acheron team. And don't get it twisted, I understand that Acheron is a little bit more niche than normal, but she's not much more different than Dr. Ratio. We've seen stuff like this before. It's not literally just DPS, support, sustain. It could be like that, but the characters do need to fit somewhat of specific roles, but we've been able to handle this in the past before. I did mention that she's more niche in my last video, but people like to type out their silly comments before listening to the entire video. Maybe you should listen to somebody's entire take before you make judgments. But let's move on to other concerns that players had, because now it's time to get into some concerns that actually really do matter. So let's talk about a big one, the light cone situation, because I'm with you guys on this one. Despite the Nihility path having a lot of really good cones, it's very stacked. They don't necessarily fit ideally into what Acheron wants to do. She's going to break the mold a little bit. She's going to be a different Nihility DPS character than we've seen so far in the game, and she needs a light cone that works with that. And her signature does look like a light cone that can do that. Now, I can't really talk about that right now, but I'll just say that her signature light cone is going to be a monster when attached to her. But the existing Nihility light cones available, not all of them really work. Only some of them work very well, and they're all a part of the gacha system. This does make it difficult for free-to-play players to be able to potentially use her in a truly optimal way. It doesn't make it impossible, but there's going to be some form of luck involved, or if you're a day one player and have been playing since the beginning and have just acquired a series of decent light cones that you could use, then you're okay, but many players haven't been that lucky, and the light cone situation is probably the biggest concern when considering pulling for Acheron, and I will admit that right here, right now, it's true. Most of the Nihility light cones available in the game right now are centered around DOTs, break effect hit rate, maybe some energy gains, things like that. But Acheron has a lot of front end in-your-face damage, and unfortunately, not a lot of Nihility light cones really do that. Goodnight Sleep Well seems like a pretty solid choice. Welt's light cone seems like a good one too. Any Nihility light cone that has front-end damage will work well on her, but as you can tell by reading them, they don't necessarily hyper-focus on everything she truly wants to do in a really meaningful way compared to what her signature light cone's going to be able to do. So definitely a concern for players when considering pulling for her, especially if you're free to play. It's something that we're going to have to be planning around when building the character. Now this next concern baffles me to a point beyond comprehension. Normally, this is the most important part about a character, but I just simply don't understand it. Players are concerned that Acheron is not hot enough. And all I have to say is, are you frickin' blind? Can you not see? This character is smoking! So I'm gonna move on because you people are clearly, like, I don't know, mentally challenged or something like that. Like, Jude, adjust your spectacles, you old man. This character is fine. So we're gonna move on to another concern. One of the concerns that I had with this character is building the character with really good stats. Now, we can fix this most of the time with relics. And one of the most important things to remember about relics is substats. Substats are typically more important than the actual 2-piece or 4-piece bonuses that we can sometimes get on characters, occasionally making a non-optimal set work even better than the most optimal set due to the relic drops that we got. So keep that in mind when you're building the character. Make sure the character's kit functions properly. That's more important than having, oh, you know, this YouTuber said that this set's the best. Yeah, that might be true, but only if your relic drops or your substats are really good too. So keep that in mind when building the character. But this goes into my next important thing I wanted to mention. Players are concerned about Acheron's Eidolons because her Eidolon 1 and 2 are really, really big game changers and can be seen as bait in many people's eyes, and I can understand why. Her Eidolon 1 and 2 are huge because one of them allows you to be able to build the character more easily and will in turn allow you to be able to get a ton of extra damage output because of certain stats that you get from it. And the other Eidolon will allow you to be able to run not so specific of teams with her, allowing you to run at least one super OP buffer, you know, out of like the Ting Yun, the Bronya, the Sparkle, the Ron Mei, and that's going to elevate the power output of the team's overall damage to another level entirely. But something to be aware of is that I don't think Ting Yun is going to necessarily work as well as Bronya, Sparkle, and Ron Mei will with her. That's just my theory right now, and trust me, that hurts to say because I am an OP Ting Yun simp. But I think this might be a rare situation where Bronya, Sparkle, and Ron Mei are just going to be better than her in this situation. So keep that in mind. That's a little bit of a side tangent, but to be fair, I understand the concern with the Eidolon. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that. I can't be too specific right now, but her Eidolon 1 and 2 are absolutely frickin' busted. And they do make it a lot easier to build the character, to build the teams. They really elevate her power level. It is true. You don't need to have them, though. It's kind of just like every other 5-star character. You don't have to get the signature light cone. You don't have to get the Eidolon. Yes, in this case, it's an even bigger power spike than normal, but you don't need to have them. It's like with Dan Hung and Bibitur Lune. How many people are just absolutely crushing the ever-loving crap out of everything with your E0 Dan? I know I sure have, and a lot of people say that you needed the E2 in order to make him work properly, but that's not actually true, and I think that's going to be the case with Acheron. Now, I'm probably still going to go for her signature light cone and her Eidolon 1 at least, or one of the other, because I think those are really valuable things to have on her, and I think that she's going to be a powerful meta character. I like the character. I'm really excited about this. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to, and there's a big difference between those two things. So I think we have two age-old questions we want to try to answer here. The first one, is Acheron free-to-play friendly? And I think she's less so than normal. I'm not going to try to feed you guys a pack of lies. I try to tell it like it is as best as I can, to my demise some of the time. Now, I don't think that she's impossible to play free-to-play. Don't get it twisted. As I tried to mention at the beginning of this video, you have options as a free-to-play player. Any player, literally any player, can build Acheron. Will you have the best Acheron on your server? No, that's going to be some whale that does that, and that's always going to be the case. You can totally build this character as free-to-play, but building her in a really optimal, fun, and comfy way is going to be slightly more niche than normal, and that is completely true. I've never denied that. Now, the other question. Do you need her Eidolons? Do you need her signature light cone? Again, no, you do not. There is technically no such thing as a must-pull in this game. However, her Eidolons and her signature, in this case, are going to be much more desired than normal. You know how so many players want Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune's E2? Well, a lot of players are really going to want Acheron's E1 and 2. They're going to make her really strong, and her signature light cone is going to give her really good stats and make her a lot easier to build, which means you'll get better stats in your building, which means damage, damage, damage. There's a ton of value in her Eidolons and in her signature light cone that aren't always quite as potent as normal. But again, you don't need these things to build Acheron, and she's going to be so strong, in my opinion, that I don't feel like you have to have these things. I'm going to go for them because I really believe in the character's potential. I want to go for these things. I don't have to, and there's a difference there. So you have to make the decision that's best for you and your account, and I hope this video was helpful in sort of trying to clear some of that up for you. Obviously, more information will be coming out soon about this character, and we'll address this stuff again once it becomes more prevalent and once it gets closer to her banner. If any of this was helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.